I am not saying that you are hired. It's us that we are saying that you are not hired. Right? So it is like whenever you want to blame someone, it says that us, which is they and not me, who are saying that you are not selected. It's not me. You are a good candidate from my perspective. Going forward, CEOs of the company, right? The book really mentioned that they have to be a blogging expert. As of now, CEOs of the company have been like 40 or 50 years of work experience they are sitting. By the time when they became a CEO, computers were not there. Over a period of time, computers were introduced. But by the time they were supposed to work, they simply know how to access emails and reply to those in a good English fashion and in a marketing process. But over a period of time, they might be required to maintain a blog, right? Wherein they need to post information about the company. They need to tell good things about the company to whoever is interested in the company. They might be a blogging expert as well. And have a nice day.
Thank you, sir, for sharing valuable thoughts. How HR function will look like in future, how we should create connection in between I, me and us, and the various aspects which creates HR capital in true sense.
Now I'd like to invite Mr. Madan Ramchandran, Partner Manager, India and SAARC at Gulsec.
I'm not sure we had those 4 presentations now. So does that qualify for a bio break for 2 minutes? Or I can continue? They will run. Okay. First of all, thanks a lot, Dr. Verna and Dr. Singh, for having me over here. I think it's always a pleasure when you have students with whom you can share your experience and people from across industries. So we have consulting, financial services, as well as the manufacturing, and all of them talking about HR perspective. It's great learning for me as well. So the interesting thing is that Dr. Verna called me, I think a month back or so. She said we are having an HR conclave and we would like to have you here and present something. And I was wondering, I'm not from HR, you know that. I'm essentially a sales, marketing and alliances person. And I was, what kind of contribution can I make? Then I realized I'm part of an industry called the analytics, with IT industry, and there is an analytics. And one of the things that we have been doing for quite some time is to talk to the business managers and business leaders and offering them solutions across functions. It could be sales, it could be marketing, or it could be HR analytics. So my primary objective was to come and talk about analytics as a discipline. And of course I'll touch upon HR analytics as well. But I'll make a conscious effort not to intellectualize the entire topic and stick to some of the fundamentals that business of today require when it comes to HR analytics. So I work for this company called ClickTech. Of course they have explained about the company in the introduction. And my previous associations have been with companies like SAP and Salesforce.com. The pretext of my presentation over here. But let's start with a simple question. I want you all to think through this for a second before we go ahead. You all, many of you students over here and corporates over here, you all do one thing every day. And what is it? As a skill that you use every day, as a business manager, as a student, as a management practitioner, what is it that you do every day as a skill? Communication, what else? Analysis, what else? Time management. Okay. So we are getting into the soft skills area. Networking, okay. There is one very interesting component. Unfortunately, a lot of recruiters and hiring managers don't measure that. Here comes the question, and I want you all to think about it. What's new about it? It was always there, isn't it? How many of you agree that decision analysis as a science, as a subject, as a theory was always there? How many of you would agree? Right. So what's so different about it? Why is suddenly that we all are discussing about it in forums, conclaves, conferences, or a lot of academicians are writing about it? What is it? What is different about it? Any thoughts? Now you realize the importance. Do you mean that 15 years back the importance was not realized?
Importance was there, but
Yeah.
not very high time that we are focusing on.
HR leaders were taking decisions. decision 20 years back as well.
So sharing wider aspects of it.
So things were not
Okay.
that much complex.
Environment is
Okay,
changing
excellent. What
very
did you say?
fast.
Things are not that much
Complex.
complex. Okay.
Environment is changing very fast, so we need to cope up with the situation.
So now
Okay.
we realize the importance of people as well.
Excellent. Competition. So something interesting, all that you said is very relevant. Competition is increasing, things are becoming more and more complex, the business environment is changing, people are changing, the importance is more realized. Let's take a step back. That's all management, that's all we read in business books and theory. But there is something fundamental happening to the way we take decision itself, right? And what is that? If you realize over years, four key components that are happening around decision and analysis. But having said that, the entire concept of analysis itself has changed. A lot of people who have been in the industry for 20 odd years would realize that, earlier the business used to probably pull out reports based on their existing systems they have. And what those reports used to give them was a view of what has happened, right? So something happened and you get a report of it, which is not proactive, which is a reactive approach. Well, organizations matured over a period of time. They realized it cannot happen that, I only decide on things that have already happened, but I need to proactively know. They said, okay, let me build some basic analysis. Let's not have my payroll report or my recruitment report, just a tabular and columnar report, but let me add some basic analysis. Basic analysis could include what has been the attrition rate, how fast we have been recruiting people and so on and so forth. Over a period of time, it matured further. What people started realizing, it's not that I want to know what has happened in business, but I want to know what is happening now. I want to know the current performance of my salesperson sitting in Bangalore. I want to know the current performance of my operations head who runs a factory in Patna, right? What's happening now? And that's when we started having dashboards, real-time dashboards, and so on and so forth. And also they started looking at things slightly more in a, I call it the near side way, things as to what is happening. Third is business value. It has been proved, and there are multiple examples. You can go to Google and check out these case studies. There are multiple examples wherein there are clearly, if you have invested in some kind of an analytics to take effective decisions, you are potentially able to cut costs. Right? Cut costs not necessarily in terms of firing people, by the way, but cut costs in terms of reassigning people to the right opportunities. Right? So if a person has the capability to interact well with the customer, and that's his skill, as an HR person, you should be able to track it and reassign him to a customer-facing role. If the same person is working in an operations node and not being productive, it's not necessarily he is not good in that area. But how do you make those decisions? That's where HR analytics comes in. Then, great, HR analytics is fine, performance management is fine. Are organizations investing in it? The answer is yes. So some of the leading organizations that you would have heard of, Microsoft, Deloitte, Sun, are investing in HR analytics. But are all of them investing in HR analytics? No. So if you look at the research, it says that typically it's the best in class or large enterprises, globally distributed enterprises who have been investing in HR analytics. Still, a lot of investment has to happen in the big market and the lower segment of the industries, which is still picking up and yet slow. That's because, as I said, still a lot of companies are at a reporting and dashboard mode and have not moved into next level. But it's just a matter of years that they will realize the importance. But what are the practical challenges? And I wanted to highlight this. Why, if companies want to implement HR analytics, it's not big bang. Today I decide that I want to roll out HR analytics. It's not that I can go ahead and implement it right away. It's a phased approach. There are a lot of challenges, and to start with the challenge, it starts with people itself. Believe me, a lot of people are not comfortable with transparency. You put together an HR analytics program, you put together a nice dashboard report and share it with people. Not everybody will be comfortable. You will actually face a lot of resistance. You know, and it's a lot to do with the country's culture, organization's culture, right? Or the move curriculum. Not just that, the ability, how many people can actually have an analytical thought process, you know, or even as simple as a skill like asking the right questions. That's another challenge. It's not a commonly found skill these days. Not just that, and from a data perspective. Okay, fine, I want to put together an HR analytics platform. Is the data that I have correct? Is it accurate enough? Will it give me the right insights to take decisions, right? That's another challenge. How will I get data from 40 odd different countries where I have operations? It's not easy. Then you have the technology problem. What platform should I choose? How will I, as an HR leader, how will I go and convince my CEO that this is something that requires investment, right? So these are some challenges, and I would like to, you know, end the session with the thought that irrespective of whatever platform you choose, irrespective of whatever KPIs you decide to analyze as an HR professional or a business leader, at the end of the day, you have to see how is it helping you to take decisions. And if you go by a staggered approach, a phased approach, take care of all these aspects, I think you will be able to roll out a successful HR analytics implementation. What I would recommend you all to do is go to YouTube. There are some amazing HR analytics demonstrations available and actual products. Look at them and see what companies are doing in action. Right? While it is one thing to talk a lot in terms of theory, the real experience comes from when you see some interesting demonstration of HR analytics tool, and you'll get a better insight. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your valuable thoughts about HR analytics and how it will give an ease, speed, and collaborative approach to give proper solutions to the questions which he already mentioned. And the most crucial thing, the impact. How it will impact the whole industry, organization, and society as a whole. Now, without wasting much time,
Moving forward with session 1, I would like to invite Mr. A.D. Burman, GM HR Maruti Suzuki India Limited, to share his views.
Good afternoon. It's good to know that you are all still there. So, Dr. Rajveer Singh, Dr. Varuna Tyagi, Dr. Saurabh Gupta, other distinguished faculties, my co-panelists here, Madan Ramchandran, Vivek Nigran, Krishnan Kaushik, and the most important component, my student friends. Good afternoon and welcome to this session. I think, earlier speakers have covered almost everything, and so it will be not for me much of a challenge, because then I don't have to cover anything, because everything about HR is covered. But before we start, I thought, as a sort of energizer, I'll show you a short audio visual, and probably that will refresh all of us here. So can you have the image, please?
Dismissed from drama school, down by the Decca recording company, who said, "We don't like their sound, and guitar music is on the way out." A failed soldier, farmer, and real estate agent. At 38 years old, he went to work for his father as a handyman. Cut from the high school basketball team, he went home, locked himself in his room, and cried. A teacher told him he was too stupid to learn anything, and he should go into a field where he might succeed by virtue of his pleasant personality. Fired from a newspaper because he lacked imagination and had no original ideas. His fiancée died, he failed in business twice, he had a nervous breakdown, and he was defeated in 8 elections. If you've never failed, you've never lived.
We are not going to be talking about I got the topic and I was discussing with Dr. Varuna, I said I really don't understand what this is all about. And then she said this is about HR analytics. And I said I'm really not very clear about what the topic is. But what I could talk about is what we do in our organization, which is a 360-degree method. And so I'll cover that. But before that, I'll just give a little bit of a context. Businesses, for what purpose? Why do we create businesses? Why are corporates created? Why do promoters, establish business organizations? Yeah? The graph was very strong, but the response is not. I know I'm standing between you and your lunch, but it's very easy. It's very simple. It's to make profits. It's to make money. And yesterday we were there in a HR conclave, which was being done by NHRD, and we had Dr. Yashu Verma sharing about the concept of two rabbits going in two different directions. And business was about managing these two rabbits, one being the profit, the other being the market share. And really speaking, to manage these two rabbits, we must have in an organization clear targets and goals. Clear targets as to what sort of sales we want, what sort of revenue we want, what sort of profits we need to generate. And all that is what drives the organization. So where does PMS come into it? We deploy the organization target, cascade it down to each individual area of goals. And that is where we talk about KPI and a goal deployment. Now in the morning when Mr. Dogana was talking, and now Madan about 360 degree, they were not very encouraging remarks at that point of time, but let's see what comes out of it. The concept also is that PMS is for assessing my performance, making me a better person, telling me where I can improve, or as an employee who comes and talks to me, the richer person, is what's in it for me. But truly speaking, the first purpose of a PMS, there are two perspectives. One is the organization perspective, one is the individual perspective. And the organization perspective is it is to run business. That's what it's primarily there for. And so many people mistakenly think it's all there for me, but it's not true. That's the second perspective. And when you work in HR or you work in organization, there will always be two perspectives. One will be of the organization and one will be of yours. So what we'll cover? We'll talk about 360 degree. I think it will change from the other. There are multiple assessment tools, like I said, potential and performance management system. There are also development centers, but I thought I'd take a particular tool and we talk about this tool. So basically, we'll try and cover what is 360 degree, the power of the tool, the overview, individual reports, a little bit of glimpse, and how do we go forward from here. Use it only for evaluation, that can be done. If you use it for development, that also can be done, and you can do both, of course. Where you need to start 360 degrees, where people are mature, they are comfortable with each other, and the development can take place. Look at developing our senior leaders. There was a lot of apprehension. People said, why are you introducing this? Are you trying to assess us? Is this going to be an exit route? Are you going to evaluate who needs to stay, who needs to go? That sort of apprehension was there. And we have now done it for 5-6 years, and now there's a little bit of a comfort that this is not so. We are not actually looking at evaluating a person just to, penalize him, but more from the improvement sense of purpose. So how do you improve that person? Is that, there was this Miller and donkey, right? How many of you heard the story about Miller and the donkey? The Miller, the donkey, and his son. They're going to the market, right? And they're going to do some business over there. They're going to purchase some stuff or sell some stuff. As they're on the way, the crowd who sees them says, okay, look at these two guys. They're so stupid. They have a donkey, none of them are sitting on it. And the donkey is going on by itself and they're walking also. So what they did was, the father sat on the donkey. Then after some time, some other villagers saw them and they said, look at this cruel father, he is making his young son walk and he's himself sitting on the donkey. Then the father got down and he put the son there. Then the next set of people said, okay, the son is young, he could walk. Why make his father walk? And at the end of it, the father and son was carrying the donkey and going. That is what I want to relate to your development areas. Like it's really better not to get confused by all the feedback and focus on the strength areas and bring the weakness to the threshold area.
So much, sir, for talking about performance management and how it is moving towards potential management system. And he also discussed about the complexities which is already there into the process, which has evolved from last 20 years down the line. But how we need to manage these all policies and process in our organization, that makes the difference. And this is what we'll be focusing more about. And now, to present the momentum to Mr. A.D. Burman, I would request Purnatari to do the facilitation.